Hello, hello. Happy Wednesday to you. I am so happy to be checking in with you and connecting because you know what? It's been a while. I feel like I've been on a hiatus that just was too long. You never know how that feels where you feel like, where have I been? Where have you been all my life? I know it's only actually been a week, but it feels like so much more to me and I've missed you. So I am super excited to be back with you today, even just for a short, brief while, to share some love, to share some inspiration, and hopefully to point you in a direction of being more authentically you. If you're just tuning in for the first time, hello, welcome. I am Dr. Andrea Pennington. I am the host of Liberate Your Authentic Self, co-founder of the Real Self-Love Movement. Om Shanti, welcome. I'm so happy to have some of our returning friends, even if it is a little bit late for you over there. Naman, it's good to see you here. I'm glad to have you. So I wanted to talk specifically today about confidence, about being free to be your real self. Namaste, Claire. Good to see your face again as well. And I'm going to have to find out, Miss Teakins, how to pronounce your first name because I'm not even going to mess that up. But I welcome you. I welcome you all. So glad to see you here and tuning in. And the reason why I want to talk about this confidence thing, what up, Trevor? Good to have you in the heezy. The reason I want to talk about this confidence thing is this. Some of you know that I'm publishing books and doing speeches and stuff. And one of the things about publishing these group books is people go through a lot of emotional changes when you get to the point of saying, I'm willing to share my story. It's one thing to say your story to another human. It's quite another thing to put it into a book and share it around the world. But for me, this is now my way of life. And 14 years ago, or 15 years ago, when I first was sort of nudged into publishing, I went through the same thing that all of my authors went through. Like, wait, who, me? Who would want to read my stuff? Like, there's already so many other brilliant, writers and doctors and therapists out there. And it was because I was comparing myself to them. You ever done that? Comparing yourself to whoever you esteem highly? Well, I want to help you get past that because the confidence that you have to be your real self is going to free you up. And the reason I feel like this is such an important topic right now is because when you feel like you've got to compare yourself to other people or live up to someone else's expectations, it constantly puts you at a feeling like you are in the defensive mode. You're waiting, literally, for someone to attack you. Now, doesn't that sound silly? Right? If you had your little kids and you were going to send them out there and you say, all right, now I want you to just watch out for everyone who's going to attack you. Like, we actually do that to our children in some ways. Now, okay, maybe not just parents, but the whole social system from our peers and teachers and coaches at school, they set our children up to always be looking out for a threat. And the problem with that is it starts to force us to hide our real natural self. The things that we came to the planet to share and explore that are native to us, that are innate to us. And what happens? I want to know from you, on those times where you felt afraid to be your real self or afraid to share your truth, how did that feel inside of you? Type away. I want to know. Have you been hiding what you do or what gifts you have or what's really on your mind because you're afraid of being shamed by somebody else or you felt like, I don't know, that you just weren't important enough or you felt guilty for wanting attention or wanting to speak up. Talk to me, y'all. Come on now, why y'all so quiet? This is a big deal to me because conformity, for me, had me hiding and playing small. And I just did an interview with this lovely lady named Sarah. And as part of Janine Staples' new summit that's coming out. And we were talking about, how do you break free from the fear of criticism? How can you have such confidence to get out there, to do TED Talks, to be on TV, to share so vulnerably? And I'm glad that you guys are now typing in. So Claire says that when you felt that way, when you're hiding, you feel stuck, small, and frustrated. I can relate. Naman says, as a child, you were free, but then you were dragged away by social stigmas. And Leslie Van Oostenbrugge, Dr. Vano, as we call her, Leslie Vano, the awakening dentist, she says, you hide, but first you don't know that you're hiding. Exactly. And that's the real challenge, because in our childhood, like Naman was saying, in our childhood, we start off free. We just express what we want, we do what we want, we paint on the walls, we paint on our bodies, until somebody either shames us, tells us it's wrong, or it's bad, or girls don't do this, boys don't do that. We start having all these limitations. And so we don't realize, like Leslie was saying, we don't realize that we're hiding until the pain sets in. Hey, Faida, welcome to the party. So as Claire said, that feeling of being stuck. This is a big deal to me because as I'm working with some fabulous people to bring a new program to the world, we were looking at what is it about not being your real self? Because it almost sounds like a luxury to some people. This idea of self-love, to many people, sounds self-indulgent. Self-indulgent, like, oh, I don't have time for that. Like, who am I to really care for myself? But do you know what it's like to feel stuck, as Claire was saying? Do you know what it's like to feel like you have to hide? Now, I know what that feels like because I was doing it for so long. I lived two lives. I kind of like kept some of the stuff that I really loved in my private life kind of as hobbies. I kept it to myself. And then I felt weird if I shared something and somebody would look at me like I was crazy or they just didn't speak the same sort of language. And that was, it was painful. And so I asked this question because not being your authentic self and hiding takes up a lot of energy. And then you do feel stuck and afraid to move forward in life. And as Leslie says, it turned into back pain for her. And so this idea that you not being the real you in all situations, you not expressing your real thoughts and your heart and your feelings, and then being free to like do what you want, say what you want, create a life that you want, that energy that you're holding inside ends up causing some sort of dis-ease in the body. Leslie said it was back pain. For some of us, it's that just sense of feeling stuck, that sense of feeling anxious all the time. For me, I felt anxious, like I always had to like check, like, what am I going to say? And it was kind of nice working at Discovery Channel because in the beginning, everything I talked about on TV was scripted. I was anchoring the news, doing these documentary films, so I always had a script. But I think it was probably the second time I did the Oprah show, and then I started doing other shows. There was no script because people started asking me about my opinions, not just, well, what does the medical literature say about this? People were saying, okay, well, what are you seeing in your medical practice? And I was seeing people who weren't speaking their truth were getting migraines. People who weren't like literally following their passion. I remember the first time I connected it for one of my patients and I said, All that stuff that's going on in your stomach is because you are like swallowing and internalizing all of the energy that you should be expressing. And I gave her a prescription to go out and do like creative stuff. I was like, I want you to go do what you used to do. So I'm going to invite you to think back, if you can even remember back to a time when you really were living your truth, you were doing fun things, or you were expressing yourself in a way that felt natural and good and put you into that state of flow. I want you to think back on that and see if you can reinvigorate it and go do some of it. Because what happened with this woman, I told her, I was like, that irritable bowel syndrome that you're having and the tension and the anxiety, and she was getting in fights at work. As soon as she went off, she did some creative stuff, got back in touch to what she used to do at university with more creativity and styling stuff. She came in the next week for a session and was like, I feel like myself. Now that may not sound like a very big statement to you, but if you have been for years not living as yourself, hiding, playing small, fitting into someone else's box, doing a career just because either your daddy or your mama told you you needed to, or because you had to pay the bills, to be able to finally say, I feel like myself, that's a revelation. So for her, we continued doing the acupuncture, doing the meditation. Suddenly, all the irritable bowel stuff went away. Her physical symptoms went away. And it's crazy because a lot of people, okay, so Claire's saying migraine and depression, but not anymore though. So now you're doing the things, she says, you're doing the things that you actually love, that light you up. Awesome, Claire, because that is what all of us need, right? Welcome back, Candice Marie. Good to see you. So we need to be doing the things that are truly natural to us. And part of my mission, hello, Rahima. Good to see you. I love your little frame there. Time to rise, baby. It is time for us to rise up. So here's the thing. What I noticed in my own life is, like you, Claire, I had depression. And the depression got lower and lower and lower until I hit rock bottom. And one of the things that you'll hear in the next few weeks about burnout and breakdowns and whatnot, I don't want anybody to have a breakdown. I don't want you to burn out. I've been through burnout, and that ish is not fun. But the beauty or the blessing in that is that when you are knocked on your booty and forced to be still or to be silent or to finally take stock of your life, this is an invitation and an opportunity to get back in alignment with your true nature, which means you got to evaluate everything. There's a saying that when you hit rock bottom, there's nowhere to go but up. And I want to help you rise up. That's part of my life's mission. And when I told somebody that I was this weekend with my daughter working on my next TED Talk, which is definitely a trip and kind of fun, a lot of people were asking me about the first TED Talk, which has now gone over 800,000 views. Oh, I'm so excited. But even where I was then, sorry for that noise, I don't know if y'all can hear that. But even where I was then, delivering that TED Talk 3 years ago, I've come so far. Mainly because, I don't know, when you do start being your authentic self in a public way, not just singing in the shower and in the privacy of your own home, but being willing to share who you really are, something happens. There is a magical shift. And I really shouldn't even say magical because it's so innate, it's so natural, it's so fundamental to life. But when you start showing up as your authentic self, it creates a field of less tension because you're no longer using the energy that it takes to hide and stuff and fake and putting yourself into a box or being a chameleon. Does this make sense to anyone? When you show up as your real self, you channel your energy in new ways, and it creates a different vibration a different experience with the people around you. And that different experience, that different energy or vibe opens up. It opens up the possibility of being able to share. It opens up the possibility of true connection. It opens up the possibility for love. So vulnerability is what I found, which I did for myself. This was my own self-help journey, doing that first TED Talk. But what I found was it opened me up to a whole new conversation and a way of being with other people that was so much more natural and free and healing. And that's what I've been able to sort of mirror and teach my daughter, which, wait till you see this next TED Talk. I think it's going to be a very fascinating adventure. So Runar says, let me see if I can read your comment. First of all, hello. Hello, Runar. So you haven't had the chance to say that or taken the chance to do so. I'm glad that you did. So about today's topic, you said being you and daring to do your things has been your biggest fear since childhood. You were on your way, but you need to practice. Big things happening this year. Awesome. I can't wait to see what these big things are. And that is what happens. Hello, Jacqueline. Good to have you here. It does take practice. So I would have to say to you, Runa, congratulations. It takes practice. And that's what I shared in this interview that I did earlier today. It was like, we need to do it, to practice it, so that we get feedback that tells our little primitive brain that it's safe. It's safe to be who you really are. And I love what you're saying here, Leslie. Yes, it creates a whole new life. It creates the opportunity for love when we can be who we really are. And I think part of the reason why this is so fundamental to me in my life is because all of the projects that I'm doing all have this central theme. You know, Jacqueline says, you've come out more recently. Having been so intuitive in your healing for so long, you feel like a new woman. I love it. And yes, Trevor says, let's show up as our real selves and form some true connections. Well, I love what you're saying here, Jacqueline, about, you know, rather than hiding your spirituality, you're coming out with it. Because the reality is that's actually what people want. They want a soul-to-soul connection. Now, we may have been brainwashed or ashamed or bullied into thinking that we just need social connections. And to the most basic part of us, yeah, we do need social connections, or at least our brain thinks that we do. Now, I'm not saying go live on an island and all by yourself, although you can come to an island for a private retreat with us in July. Here's what I mean. We know that our little brain, our lower reptilian brain, programmed from millions of years of evolution, we know that the human animal side of us, we need social connections according to our brain. So anytime a potential threat comes up in your world where you fear that your social identity is going to be blamed, shamed, bullied, questioned, judged, rejected, it triggers that most primitive part of your brain to think, oh my God, this isn't safe. It's not safe to share your real self because you might get kicked out of the tribe. And for our ancestors, that meant near certain death. But the reason that we need to practice stepping out little by little, sharing our true self, is because that information will feed back to that part of the brain to say, I'm still alive. Being me didn't kill me. I'm okay. Maybe it's actually safe. And the more that you get that feedback from the environment and find maybe a new tribe, that might have been scary for our ancestors who didn't have cars and bicycles and airplanes or the internet. But for us today, we can connect with people around the world. Like, where are y'all from? So we have Naman in India. We've got Leslie Van Oostenbrugge in Holland, right? We've got Taz Thornton in the UK. Sonia, where are you from? She's saying you so relate to this because you burnt out. You manifested illness, left a corporate job, started your own practice, and now you need to support yourself. It's a different kind of struggle. You enjoy your journey and you love being yourself. This is awesome. And that's so, I get that. You're saying that, how does one do that from the phase of living your purpose to not having to worry about your next client and the financial struggle? Well, I love that you bring that up, because a lot of my work where I am today is helping healers and coaches and light workers, including the wealth sector. What's up? North Carolina and Swansea in the UK. Got another UK. Okay. So hear this concept. Now, lately, I have been sharing the visions that I get. Now, I didn't always share that stuff. I did feel like a weirdo when I was a kid, and I started to get what I call now downloads. I would see things. I would I would either have dreams, some sort of precognitions, whatever it was. I would tell people, because I thought, oh, wow, something would happen like a deja vu, and I'd be like, oh, dude, I saw that. Well, then I found out that not everybody had, deja vu or precognition or psychic things, right? And it was like, oh. And then some people looked at me like I was weird. And so I started to hide those parts of me. And, being connected to a spiritual presence, I call it the divine source or God or oneness. I noticed that not everybody had that, or people had labels for God that just didn't feel right or fit right. And it was in that sense of recognizing that I'm not like everyone else that I hid it. And I don't want that to be the case. So as I've kind of come out, and I admitted in a few of these live videos, we've invited people to share your vision. I challenge people when I do my personal branding bootcamp, and when I work with clients to help bring your vision to the world, whatever that is in business, whether it's, as you pointed out, Sonia, it's like, okay, I want to manifest more clients. We get into this vision of what would that look like? What would it feel like, smell like, taste like? And as people started sharing their visions, you've probably heard me say already that the lovely Gitte Vinter-Graugard from Denmark was saying, ooh, be careful what you say to Andrea, because she's a dream catcher. You share these dreams and then we help make them come into reality. But what happens when we do share that is there is a new aspect of creation that comes into play. And even though it was scary for me, over the last few weeks, I've been sharing more of these visions. And one of them that happened in Peru, when I was there with my dear friend and colleague, Missy Crutchfield from the Gandhi Global Center for Peace, there was this thing about the redistribution of wealth and helping more light workers become truly spiritual millionaires. And at first I didn't want to say that out loud, because my whole business is not meant to just try to get people, get to that 6-figure or create a 7-figure business. But what came up was, once again, that hiding that aspect meant that people were staying broke. And so, Sonia, I would invite you to see what it would feel like when you're in that state of abundance, and maybe identify what's blocking you. Because if there's some sort of fear about what it means to be wealthy, or in my case, what does it mean for me? I didn't want to have to go back to corporate. Because when I was working at Discovery, well, okay, mind you, let's see, I think I was just 30 when I started working at Discovery. So I worked for 4 years as a medical director, but I was young, vigorous, no children. I came from an environment where we worked 100 hours a week as in the medical system. So it was cool. I didn't mind being in that startup mentality. But the first time I had a burnout, again, it was that moment of saying, do I want to go back? Because a lot of people say, if I could just get a pill, if I could just, get my energy back. I'm like, well, what would you do? Most of them are saying they would just go back to the same way they were living. And so we really have to be clear on what's blocking us from really living with that innate vitality that we're supposed to be, or I won't say supposed to be, that we have the opportunity to do. So Jacqueline says, you are over burnout now. Keep going, guys. Look after yourself. Poco de poco. It will happen. And Taz says, remember, it's easy to burn out, even when we're being our true selves. We can feel so right, get such a buzz, that we keep doing and doing until our body forces us to slow down. It's easy to miss the signs when you love your work so much. Hypervigilance and awareness needed. Self-love first. Yes, amen, Taz. Isn't that the truth? And that's really, literally, what happened to me. I have had this happen in the last 2 years. I didn't have a complete burnout, but once again, this is very common for people who, like Taz says, people who love their work, caregivers, people in the helping or healing professions. Like, we have a tendency, because of either our compassion or our true dedication to the mission or our true love for our work, we can go too far. And this is really what was coming up for me. First, being a caregiver for my mother. So again, that same concept of self-awareness, that hypervigilance, Taz, so spot on, because I didn't see it. I went into rescue mode. Anybody else come from a dysfunctional background where you've had a little codependency, a little bit of I'm a rescuer? Well, okay, I'll take the hit for everyone. You don't have to type that in. But for me, I have been very, very much about wanting other people to be okay, to be well, to be successful, to be, uplifted. Now, on the positive side, I have a great company where I get to shine the light on beautiful people like you. I get to do interviews with you and lift you up and lift up your message, because that is fundamental to me. But there can be that side to it where I go too far. Everything exists on a spectrum. That compassion that drives me to do what I do and not wanting other people to suffer. Yeah, like Candice Marie. So I'm getting a bunch of yeses. Okay, thank you all for your honesty. I'm so glad that I am not alone. And yeah, plenty of dysfunction. So I'm not trying to call anyone out, but I just know that even people who have the best of intentions and maybe didn't have any dysfunction, but you really want to help, you're struck by this heart of compassion, that we have to recognize, where's that balance? And that hypervigilance is what I didn't have. I was just so focused on helping my mom and trying to create this perfect environment for her. And that was nearly my downfall, because you can do that for a few hours of the day as long as you rest and eat and balance that with, good nutrition, hydration, maybe some exercise, a little bit of escape, do something for yourself where you get to just get out of the stress. But because my mom, with her Alzheimer's and the jet lag, she was up all night talking to imaginary patients in her imaginary medical office. So you add in sleep deprivation to that, and that is a complete and total cocktail for burnout. And so being aware of what our tendencies are and recognizing that we do have to stop and nurture ourselves is definitely part of it. And so, and yes, Naman, I'm not talking about a healthy dependence on our parents. I don't know how to sort of explain codependency, but in the Western world, we recognize that if someone has had like an alcoholic parent or a parent with an illness, or even a sibling with an illness, or there's some other dysfunction in the family, sometimes we as children, we need everyone to be okay so that we feel okay. Sometimes people need everyone to be okay so they don't get a beating, for people who grew up in an abusive situation. So it sets up a dynamic that the psychologists call codependency, which to its extreme is not healthy. So I'm not talking about healthy dependence on your family. So just to make that distinction. But in any case, I wanted to talk about this because I know that you have some magic within you. You have something that you came to the world to deliver that nobody else can deliver. And I know that when you tune in to who you really are, when you tap into the innate natural code for your vitality and then start living your life in alignment with that, you're going to have more energy. You're going to be more productive. You're going to be more loving. And so even though there's this temptation to work on that old programming of trying to fit in and trying to hide who you really are, I at least want you to feel safe and feel invited to share, at least within this safe community, where we are going to lift you up and support you and provide that healthy family environment that if you make a mistake or you need help, there's no shame here. It's about lifting each other up and creating a whole new vibration of safety so that we can activate the parts of our brain that show us it's safe to be who you are. It's safe to share your truth. Because when you do that, then you're going to grow. You're going to have that experience of being able to step even more boldly into this next level of your life. And I was thinking of it because, yes, Elaine, sorry, reading your comment, you said we can help others, but it shouldn't be at our expense. I am so with you on that one. Because that was kind of what I was doing. It was to my detriment. And as overused as the phrase is, we should not be putting the oxygen mask on the young or the weak. Because if we should be putting it on ourselves. Because if you're trying to fix them and they don't get it right or they start fighting you, if you've ever had a kid when you're trying to put on a baby's hat or shoes or something and they fight you, and then there you go, starved of oxygen, and then you both end up dead. But when we care for ourselves, so part of this self-care thing that I want to talk about is I am still learning. And this is what came up this weekend as I started mapping out my next TED Talk. So the first TED Talk was all about being your authentic self. Well, this next one, this is going to be, I don't know how to describe it yet because it's still being formulated, but this is about really recognizing the mistakes I've made along the way. And the reason why I'm saying that the idea about you being your authentic self and having the freedom to do that, yes, Fleming, we are all still learning, and we will for the rest of our lives. Absolutely. But the reason why this is important to me is it was kind of like a revelation. And I have to admit, it came from my daughter. It was Sienna. She's a perfect mirror. And she's also able to just show me where I'm making my mistakes. And I shared this on my Mother's Day rant. I'm sorry if that ruffled some people's feathers. I was not trying to. Anyway, here's what came up for me. It was recognizing that I was trying to create this ideal environment for my child. And I was trying to create an environment that would promote and support her to grow up as her authentic self. So Taz, you've met her, as have many of you who Fleming, you saw her in Copenhagen. She was with me in London. Okay, this child has been to so many countries, and even a few that I haven't been to yet. Because I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a single mom, and sometimes she told me, I don't want to stay home with a babysitter. I'd rather go with you. I'm like, wouldn't it be boring for you? No. She likes it. So you've been working on your next TED Talk too, Taz. Ooh. The power of silliness. I love it. I love it. So mine is more about just admitting a few of the mistakes I made, and I won't give it the big reveal, but there's a big reveal because some things are changing in our lives. But here's the thing. The real crux of it all was Sienna basically reflected back to me how wrong I was. Not in a mean way. It was just like, I'm trying to do all of these things to make this and this and this. And she was like, that's not even what I want. And I was trying to also fit into a system. I didn't realize how much I was trying to fit into yet another box. While in our private life, allowing her to flourish as her authentic self, but then still doing this, little boxes on the hillside. Anyway, so all I'm saying is, if you're willing to step up, to at least say it to one other person that you trust, these crazy visions, these ideas, these impulses of what you really want to be or do or have in this life, then you're going to free up more energy that sets everything in motion to heal the body, to calm that anxiety. Yeah, you might feel a little scared at first, but when you realize that there's this community that's reflecting back to you love and acceptance, and you're getting that for yourself, you're feeling it in your own body, like, wow, I didn't die. Wow, this actually feels good. You can take the next step and the next step and the next step. Because if there are more of us that are living our truth, that more of us that are actually expressing our authentic gifts, then we're each going to be able to fit into this beautiful tapestry of life in our unique ways, in a way that the world actually needs us. The world doesn't need another copycat doctor. Like someone asked me, like, Andrea, 13 years of schooling and the degree and then practicing medicine in the hospital. Like, don't you miss being a doctor? Like, do you regret that? Absolutely not. I had a pretty successful practice. I was a pretty great doctor, but I'm even more effective activating light workers. Hey, wait, what? That wasn't even on my little college entrance thing. So some of us are going to end up making a completely new niche for ourselves, a whole new category for what we do. And it defies actual definition of what I really do, but that's okay. I'm over that need to have some sort of a label. And the only regret that I would say I would have is not letting this stuff out. A lot of what I'm doing now, working with older people, a lot of people are talking about legacy, and we're moving into an area now where it's not about the money. Many of us really want to offer up something that will have a lasting, dramatic impact in the world, that will actually matter. And thinking about on your deathbed, would you look back with any regrets? Or would you feel very confident to say, peace out, I did what I came for? Yeah, you may not have gotten everything done, but if you died today, could you say that you could leave without a regret? I know, it's a little crazy. Maybe that's a little heavy on a Wednesday. Is today Wednesday or Thursday? Troy Davis, you are who you say you are. Yep, that's who I say I am. I am an infinite being here to stir my pot of woo. Woo-woo-ness. What's up, my friend Steiner? So good to see you here. Much love to Steiner Ditlevson. Many of you heard that we were in Alicante, Spain. It was with this lovely gentleman. He says, TED and their audience is lucky to have a world-class speaker and courageous, amazing woman like me. Oh, thank you, Steiner. I have to acknowledge you, though, Steiner, because this transition that's been happening for me in the last few years, some of it started with that TED Talk for sure, but it also got amplified to a new degree. And when I talk about this thing about creating space, creating the space that I've created with the Real Self-Love movement, working with Helena Phillipson and with this new thing that we're doing with the Innate Vitality Project, it's a space. And I shared this in my book. Some of you have read I Love You, Me. But what I want to just call you out for this, Steiner, because it was so awesome. I'm one of these people that I believe people. I take them at their word. Now, I admit this burned me in my past. I used to hire people based on what they told me. I know that sounds like stupid, right? I'd hire people and they had this vision of what they were going to do and work in the company, and I gave them full empowerment, and then they didn't do it. And I'm like, wait, you told me you were going to do this, and I gave you the full space? Well, I stopped doing that for a while until I really got to this other side where I'm just going to live my truth. I'm going to believe people. If they disappoint me, okay, I'm not going to be too attached, but I'm going to believe them. And so Steiner, who invited me to the ETTG, that's the European Transformational Teachers Gathering. Last year I went, and Steiner said, you know, Andrea, we're just creating a space of openness, sharing from the heart. What could you share with this audience that would just inspire them and lift them up? And I'm like, I know many people have said this, including Stefan. Is it Stefan or Stefan from Germany, who now also lives in Spain? So he was saying, wow, Steiner put out this invitation and said, this is just going to be a place to share and meet new people, connect from the heart. And that sounds really beautiful. So Steiner, when I stepped on that stage, I was like, well, I'm going to do what he said. This is what he invited me to do. This is what I did. And it was a magical, magical experience. And the reason I'm sharing this story in detail for the rest of y'all is that when you're given an opportunity, when someone is inviting you to share from the heart, to be your authentic self, just take it. Okay, sure, they could have booed me off the stage. Steiner could have said, what is this woman talking about? Spirit and leaving her body and, you know, having a oneness experience with God. But that's not what happened. And so if you're being invited to share from your heart and you actually do it, it gives you the confidence to do it more and take it up a notch and take it up a notch and take it up a notch. And that is what transformed so many things and so many lives. And it's still going today and today and today. So I thank you, Steiner. I thank your lovely wife, Eva Andrea, who really stepped it up a whole nother notch in sharing from the heart and sharing vulnerably. And the whole takeaway from all of this was this. When we share our vulnerability, it doesn't make us weak. It makes us incredibly real. It helps us connect. And it shows that we are actually incredibly powerful. We are powerful enough to accept our humanity and be the spirit being that inhabits this body and who uses what some call the provisional ego. You don't kill the ego. There's no desire or intention to even kill the ego, because that would be impossible. But when you can be informed about your true nature and bring that sort of higher self to bear, then whatever you've got in the human realm, all of your talents and your abilities can really just be illuminated with this magical light. Okay, have I gone too far? Jacqueline, I hope this is resonating. Yes, and Taz says, you got similar questions about your old corporate publishing career, and life is much richer now. Yes. And yes, Candace, this is the authentic me. I don't even try to put it in a box anymore. And thanks to the lovely Taz, Taz, I have to say, the update is, the hashtag hippie shit, as you call it, and the woo-woo stuff. I've decided to reclaim the woo-woo. Like, a lot of people thought of woo-woo as a negative thing. And, Taz and I, we talked about, don't call it woo-woo. This is just ancient, And literally the stuff that we're seeing and doing, distance healing and astral travel, all of these things have been talked about for thousands of years. This isn't new age. This is like ancient science. So wonderful. Sonia says, your first instinct was, oh my God, I need to tell this to my boyfriend so he can tell me all about his stuff. Talk about looking after everyone as a healer and therapist. Yeah, right? So, don't resist the temptation to share this video with someone else who needs to have this information. But yeah, it is something that we have to watch out for, because that impulse to fix everyone and heal everyone. Yeah. All right. So let's see what else you guys have to say. Oh, we have so many little comments here. Must be running my mouth too much. Shelley says, believing in the goodness of humanity is a choice. I too choose to trust others. If they violate that trust, that's their loss. So true. I'm so with you on that. And I find that, I can still let go. I don't have to be upset for very long. If they mess up, you let them go. They had their chance. Yes, vulnerability can be beautiful. Absolutely. So my friends, so many of you are here, and I'm so grateful for that because I've missed you. I've been busy with this launch of this new project, and while that is wonderful and fun for me, it also has had me away from you and connecting. And so I want to invite you and update you on some things. The latest thing I'm working on is a video that you'll see coming out shortly about going to a private island in Iceland. And you'll see me say in the video, like, wait, Iceland is an island. But my friend, Solveig, we call her Sol, she has got us booked on a private island within Iceland. So we are going to be taking a little VIP group of people to connect with nature. This is July 26th through the 30th. And it's going to be awesome because we're having some time out in nature, staying in some yurts in Iceland on this private island, and then in a new hotel. And then we will have some time in the city of Reykjavik, spending time with Solveig at Solir, doing some yoga. And we're also going to get to connect with Gulli Gudmundsson, who has been practicing a special type of astrology for nearly 40 years. And he has created a system called nature genetics that Gulli and Sol are bringing to the world with a little bit of magical help from me. And I got my nature genetics profile done last year with Gulli, and it was so mind-blowing. And when we're talking about tapping into your authentic self, one of the things that Gulli did, it's so hilarious because he didn't know me. He does this chart and he's explaining me. And I'm sitting there going, how do you know this? Have you had a camera following me for the last 20 years of my life? And he just kind of chuckled and he's like, it's in the chart. This is your nature genetics. So the nature part is, on this earth, based on where you were born and at what time, there were things going on in the heavens, the planets, the stars, and they interact with us in a way that cause us to have certain traits. And he said, when he heard me talking about my perfectionism, he was like, oh, you said you're a perfectionist in recovery. He's like, that makes no sense. You can never get over that. And I was kind of like, yes, I can. I can be less perfectionistic. I know I can. Okay, why did I go into that terrible British accent? I have no idea. But in any case, he said, Andrea, it's all in your chart. This is just who you are. And if you would accept it and embrace it, instead of trying to feel bad about it or guilty about it or ashamed of it, then you could use it to your benefit, which now I do. So you'll be able to actually meet Gulli with us when we're in Iceland. So if you're interested, it's quite an intensive event, very, very private. There are only going to be a handful of us. So I would love to see you there. That is in July. And for the Real Self-Love movement, if you haven't heard about it, the Real Self-Love movement is a free online community, but we get together in masterclasses. And Taz, we still haven't rescheduled your masterclass, but last week I did one with the lovely Jen Mavros, who's the queen of manifestation, divine manifestation. And I did one a couple of weeks ago with Chen Lizra, which was absolutely awesome. And these are just opportunities for you to interact with some of these world-class experts that I've met in my travels. And coming up June 22nd and 23rd, we will be in the CPH, Copenhagen, Denmark, for the Real Self-Love Days. So you will meet several of the Real Self-Love leaders, including me. You'll meet Yvette Taylor, Helena Philipson, Gita Vinter-Graugard, Anya Steensi, and Willow McIntosh is flying in from the UK. and Helena Goldstein from the Joy Keepers Network. It's going to be an awesome 2-day experience where once again you get to be in this bubble of love. And I used to think that, this idea of just going to events and conferences was kind of like creating this artificial bubble. Sometimes you need an artificial bubble. You do. You need to connect with people in a safe space where you can feel the love again. Because sometimes if you're living in a relationship or a job or an environment that doesn't promote you being your authentic self and feeling loving and happy about yourself, you need to get to a place to remember that that is possible, that that is your innate birthright. To feel love, to be love, not just be loved, but to be love is your birthright. So you can join us in Copenhagen. I will share the links after this little talk. So we'd love to see you there. And what else? I'm also doing personal branding in Copenhagen that week, the 21st, and an advanced How to Be a Global Luminary on the 26th and 27th in Copenhagen. So if any of that's of interest to you, you can send me a message or clock back in so you can get some of the links. And for those of you in America, North America, or who want to visit North America, in September 23rd through the 30th, I will be at 1440 Multiversity in Scotts Valley, California for the Inner Bliss, Outer Glow. So if you really want to tap into some inner bliss with my friend, my colleague, Karina Virginia, she does Kundalini Yoga. We'll be doing some breath work. We'll be doing some inner child healing stuff. This is like another one of those real self-love experiences that will help you so that you can shine from the inside out in a beautiful space. So Scotts Valley in the Redwood Forest in California is so beautiful. So this brings me back to what I started off by saying. We can really thrive when we're living as our authentic self. And whether you participate in one of these workshops or if you want to do one of these books that I'm collaborating with several authors around the world for Life After Trauma book or the Magic and Miracles book. If you have a story about something magical that's happened in your life and you want to share that with the world, this is a safe, easy way to become a published author with a group of people who are like you, with all the marketing and the author training and branding and all of that built into it, including we do a workshop called Stories with Soul in the south of France. So last year we did it in Cannes, and we're going back to Cannes this year for Stories with Soul. It's a life writing workshop where I take you through the hero's journey. So for some of you who were just with us in Alicante, Steiner's beautiful wife, Eva Andrea, gave a beautiful explanation of how the hero's journey is something that we can look at in our own life when we're going through these trials and tribulations. Well, this is a workshop that I've been teaching my authors on how to become a better storyteller, whether that's stories that you're going to tell on stage or in writing. And so we use Joseph Campbell's format of the hero's journey to really look at your entire life and certain events that you've been through so that you learn how to tell those stories from the heart in an authentic way, but in an engaging way. So that is July 14th and 15th in the south of France, if you're interested. So lots of good stuff. You can be, Marlies, I will be in Scotts Valley September 23rd through the 30th at 1440 Multiversity, which is, this event is called Inner Bliss, Outer Glow. It's going to be healing and wonderful. You should see the video from when I was there last time with Karina Virginia. We taught together in February of this year, and it was awesome because once again, this was one of those opportunities where I was offered the opportunity to be my authentic self and to share. And so we were talking about neuroscience. And you know, I'm a nerd. I love my neuroscience. So we were talking about neuroscience and how it relates to sensuality and to self-love and how you can really turn on bliss from within. And at first, I just kind of held back. You know, gosh, some stupid habits die hard, right? Because I was like, well, I don't know how far these people want to go, so I'm doing my thing. And I mentioned something, and there was this lovely woman taking notes, and she said, wait, say that again. What was that again? And I was like, oh, you're okay if I share that? Is everyone okay? And so we got to go deep into like neuroscience and how that connects to spirituality and sharing all this woo-woo stuff. And it was transformational. When I started looking at the testimonials and the feedback that people wrote, I'm like, wow, showing up as all of me, sharing all the stuff that just fascinates me, that I love, which is spirituality, neuroscience, positive psychology, lighting them up was so transformative. So, Marlies, come on out. It would be awesome. It would be awesome sauce to see you there. So I thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, Taz, for being here. Yes, and let's get, Taz, we need to get your masterclass rescheduled soon, darling, because the peoples, they need to know the goodness that you have inside. All that wisdom, like we need to know some shamanic stuff and how to, yeah, there's a lot. So anyway, my friends, I'm not going to keep hammering on about that, but I just will say this, that all I can say is every time I have stepped up and shared even more of myself, even as scary as it was, even though I've had fear that other people would judge me, and like, yeah, this new TED Talk, it's like, I was with Sienna and it was like, oh, this is going to be great. And she's like loving it. And I'm like, oh, this will be great. And then I woke up feeling like, are people going to say, oh, I can imagine them saying this and this and that. But I know there are always going to be haters. You can't please everybody. But every time I have stepped up and out, it has been a worthwhile experience. And so I invite you to do the same. So my friends, if you need any information about the book on how to share your story in the Magic and Miracles book, I will put that out there for you. It's going to be a juicy, juicy book, and that launches in November. So can you imagine? You could be a published author this year, baby. You could be delivering Christmas gifts or Hanukkah gifts or Kwanzaa gifts. Be giving out a gift with your personal story this calendar year. Wouldn't that be awesome? I think so. So thank you guys for being here. Please feel free to share this. Email me, text me, DM me if you have some ideas or things that I've missed, things you want clarification on. I will share all the links that I told you about. Oh, my henna. For those of you that missed my henna, Sienna gave me henna for, a design for Mother's Day. Anyway, that's it, my friends. I'm going to quit rambling now. See what happens when I haven't been around for a long time? I end up just rambling. So thank you all for being here. Oh, I'm so grateful that you've showed up. Thank you for the appreciation. I love it. I love it. I love it. Namaste. I wish you a fabulous rest of your day, and I will see you again very soon, no doubt. Much love. Bye.